Now, we all know how powerful and influential the rulers of both Undertale and Deltarune are, with Asgore and his powerful fire abilities, the King of Spades and his powerful card-based attacks, and the Cyber Queen with her giant robot and battery acid? Alright. But with every powerful ruler, there's also a large group of loyal minions that come with them, and that's what we're going to be focusing on in today's video. We're going to be looking at each of these rulers' armies and comparing them to see which of the three has the most formidable soldiers. Now, before we dive in, I have some things to clarify. First, although in both Deltarune and Undertale you encounter a lot of different enemies, not all of them work for the ruler. For example, a lot of the monsters in Undertale are civilians, and only a select few actually serve under Asgore. The same thing can be seen with some residents in the Cyber City. The music group Sweet Cap'n Cakes act like enemies, but are actively rebelling against the Queen, so they don't really count as her minions. Also in this comparison, the rulers themselves won't be factored into this, because if that was the case, the Spade King would have no chance against a soul-infused Asgore or a giant queen robot.
Oh no!
Anyways, with those things out of the way, let's get started. Why don't we start things off with the original King Asgore. Now, to get this out of the way quickly, Asgore has by far the smallest army. Although it is pretty small, it is made up of pretty capable fighters. His standard soldiers consist of Final Frogates, Whimsalots, and Astigmatisms. Now, I know it's not confirmed that these three types of monsters work for Asgore, but I don't understand why they would be hanging out in the core unless they were tasked with stopping the human. I don't know, maybe they just work there, but just for this, I'm gonna count them as soldiers of Asgore. His elite warriors, quote-unquote, consist of the Royal Guard, a powerful fighting force consisting mostly of dogs. Hey, at least the dogs are actually pretty strong. They just have extremely exploitable weaknesses, like Doggo, a powerful warrior with 2 daggers that can only see things that are moving. Or the Dog-Eye, a doggy duo wielding giant axes that can only rely on their sense of smell. Although Asgore's elites are pretty incompetent, fighters like RG1 and 2 pick up some of the slack as they're actually competent fighters and are capable of performing powerful team attacks. And if those two aren't enough, Asgore has Night Knight and Magic, 2 powerful mercenaries that actually pose a threat. Now, although these things alone make up a pretty decent fighting force, Asgore's 2 most important assets are Undyne and Alphys. Undyne's sheer strength and ability to tap into determination make her by far Asgore's top fighter. Alphys is also pretty powerful with her ability to create laser shields and other kinds of technology. Also, I didn't realize this when I was actually making the script for this video, but Alphys can just hack into a lot of the enemies of the cyber worlds. I know it wasn't actually real in the games because it was all just a show that Mettaton and Alphys put together, but I'm pretty sure Alphys is smart enough to find some way of disabling a lot of the enemies in the cyber world, so there's also that. Despite a few key members, Asgore's army is, for the most part, pretty incompetent, and lacks the army size that both Queen and King possess. I mean, it does make sense though. While Asgore did hate humans, his rage and hatred against them kinda subsided throughout the years, and it makes sense that King's passionate, continuous hatred towards Lightners and Queen's rule over an entire world would have them amassing such a large army, more than what Asgore has. Now, out of the 3 rulers, the King of Spades, in my opinion, has the largest army. I don't have any actual proof of this, but it was stated that the king ordered all Darkners to attack the Lightners, meaning he conscripted a massive amount of his population, something that Queen and Asgore never did. His main fighting force consists of Rudens, Pawnmen, Bloxers, Rabbix, and Jigsaris, with Hathies acting in more of a support role. There's also the Starwalker birds and Scissor Dancers that go out of their way to block the player from progressing. Although great in number, I believe the King's forces individually are by far the weakest, and I believe that an average soldier from both Queen and Asgore's army can take down an average soldier from the King's army with ease. Even his elite soldiers seem pretty laughable, with Ruden Rangers and Head Hathies being hardly a step up from their standard counterparts. Despite this, however, their overwhelming numbers allow for them to take down powerful fighters, like the time a large group of Ruden Rangers were able to capture the Fun Gang. Now, the main heavy hitters in the King's army are Clover, K-Round, and his own son Lancer. While Clover and Lancer are pretty formidable, K-Round is probably the King's strongest member with his nigh immortality and powerful legs. His only weaknesses are the fact that 1, he's being controlled using a crown, and 2, if the crown comes off, he loses all his power. Now you probably might be saying I forgot about rules, but he probably won't be able to do much in a fight unless the enemy is weak to extremely basic puzzles. Or, if he has the power of the Thrash Machine. Now, it's only seen once throughout the entire game, but there's an item known as the Control Crown that the King's army does have, and it is able to mind control other fighters and have them join the King's side, but it's really easy to just knock off the crown and the effects will just stop. I mean, it's not even that good. The Queen is a better version of that with her wires, which are not only harder to remove, but also give the wearer more power. Overall, the Spade King's army is quite low on strength and relies on overwhelming numbers to claim victory. Now the Queen seems to have the most well-rounded army out of the 3. Her werewires are pretty tough and the tasks and ambulances are also pretty formidable. Her main form of muscle seems to come from her swatches, buff bird butlers who are pretty strong unless their opponent is a small rodent. Where Queen's army truly shines is her elites. Task Manager and Wire are both extremely formidable and could probably rival elites from the other 2 armies. I'm not sure if Swatch is at all strong due to him never being in a fight, but do you know who the Queen's actual trump card is? It's freaking Birdly. I'm not even kidding. Not only is he a strong fighter in his own right, but I also didn't realize that in non-Snowgrave, he is probably the most powerful Lightner. Yes, even more powerful than Susie. I say this because it took the combined efforts of Chris, Ralsei, and Susie in order to bring him down. I genuinely think Birdly is able to match a base form Undyne pretty handily. I do think if Undyne the Undyne is used, he would lose though. Overall, I believe Queen's army to be the best out of the 3 due to her large amount of troops that all have pretty decent strength. Alright, well that was the armies found within both Undertale and Deltarune. I know it seems pretty obvious that the main villain from the later chapter was more powerful than the ones before, but whatever. What do you guys think? Is there something I missed about the 3 armies? If you have something to say, leave a comment and I'll see you all in the next video.